The 2023 Afcon tournament has finally arrived. The 34th edition of this tournament is here. A tournament that's actually older than the Euros, bro, with a lot of history and unpredictability to it. Currently being hosted in the Ivory Coast with Senegal as the defending champions. Yeah. Now, if you're a follower of this channel, you might have noticed the time length on this video is a little bit shorter in comparison to our Asian Cup recap. Well, Soltero is here to explain why that is.
For me, it's just simply down to priority rather than pure preference. So the Asian Cup is only once every 4 years. In this case, 5 years due to the World Cup and COVID. So it's been a really long time since we even watched the Asian Cup. The Give and Go didn't even exist the last time there was an Asian Cup. Whereas 2 years ago, right at the beginning of the Give and Go, we actually did cover entirely the previous Afcon.
It was our first major tournament that we covered, bro.
Yeah, that's actually kind of funny.
And y'all can go back and look and watch those videos, but it was the biggest tournament that we had covered up at that time.
Yeah, so personally, and I think just us as a podcast, we're going to go all in as much as we can for the Asian Cup this year. We'll still obviously be following Afcon, watching the big matches, but look forward to 2025 for full coverage of the Afcon then.
Yeah. And I think it's fair to say that we'll still try to do our absolute best to give good and fair coverage of this tournament, even though we might not be prioritizing it as much as we did last time.
Oh, absolutely. We've been watching these teams for the last 15 years, so we might not be following it as closely day to day, but, you know, we're pretty familiar with most of these teams here.
The format here is actually very, very similar to what the Asian Cup is, with the top 24 African teams participating, 4 out of 6 third-place teams going through as well. Is there an argument that this is the strongest Afcon yet?
When you look at the top 6, possibly even 7 teams, actually, you know, for sure the top 7 teams, and you can add in 8 and 9. It's pretty stacked from an African football perspective. There's stars in every single team in those top 8, 9. And all that being considered, I think you could say this is probably one of the most competitive Afcons. But it will remain to be seen, can all of these teams truly unlock the potential that each squad possesses?
Yeah, man, that's always been my thing with these African teams. They can reach such incredible heights, but that consistency can be lacking sometimes. I hope, like you said, that can show this time around. So let's start with Group A, what many are considering the group of death right off the bat, with Ivory Coast the host, Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea, and Guinea-Bissau, man. What's your initial response to just seeing this lineup in the Group A?
For sure, probably one of the group of deaths, at least going to be one of the tighter groups here. Nigeria, I mean, we'll get to in a split second, but they're stacked, especially on the offensive end. Ivory Coast are host, and like Nigeria, pretty stacked on the offensive end and have some veterans throughout the midfield and defensive lines. And Equatorial Guinea have a crazy knack for going the distance in recent Afcons when they do qualify. So honestly, it's going to be a crazy battle for those top 2 spots. And, you know, unfortunately, I think Guinea-Bissau will finish bottom.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Guinea-Bissau ranked 103rd in FIFA's rankings. I do have them finishing 4th. Equatorial Guinea, bro, they're warriors, extra time dogs. I remember their run last time where they just went, I think, to the quarterfinals off of just impressive result after impressive result. And, bro, it's the return of Ivan Salvador, man.
Yes,
this is a tournament he loves to lace his boots up for. I hope that once again he gets to show out for everybody watching.
Oh, absolutely. Him alongside Machin, Buaila. It's like the same midfield, and then at the back you still have Saul Coco, Carlos Acapo, Jesus Owono between the sticks. It's that same team that have had such good runs in previous Afcons. So I expect Equatorial Guinea to be pretty competitive here. Unfortunately for them, though, I think Nigeria and Ivory Coast are going to be really, really tough.
I think Nigeria this year is looking really interesting because of their absolutely stacked offense. If you wouldn't mind, I'd love to just go through the names. You have Moses Simon, who, let's not forget, last Afcon tournament was losing his goddamn mind, playing at an incredible level. You have Ian Nacho, Chukwueze, Victor Osimhen, bro, from Napoli, Lookman, Umar Sadiq, and the names go on for this team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where Nigeria is definitely going to shine, and it's where they shined in last Afcon. Dude, they went off in the group stage, and we highlighted that. Even going as far to say I thought they were going to go to the final after that group stage. But then we saw the dark side of Nigeria, man, to where even though they have all of these attacking weapons, sometimes they just cannot adapt. And that's my ultimate question for Nigeria here is, Can they be trusted? Truly. We know they have immense attacking options, but I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't trust this team one bit. I really don't. They just have not proven to me in the last couple World Cup, in the last World Cup cycle, and the past Afcons, to really say that they are a consistently dominant force in Africa. This is their chance to prove me wrong, but until then, man, I'm going to consider this team 50-50.
Yeah, we can't, bro. I mean, for the last 3 years, I felt so underwhelmed by Nigeria's results in games, specifically 2021 Afcon. We made a whole video, bro, and they embarrassed us. They embarrassed the Give and Go, where we spoke about them being the title favorites and our pick to win the tournament. The way they went out, I think, was absolutely shameful. And you just look at what they've done since. Yes, they improved their offense, but for me, it's their questionable midfield and defense that I don't really see any big names stepping up and being able to hold their own in that part of the field. So overall, I agree with you. I'm going to be very weary of this Nigeria team, but I do have them qualifying out of this group just because of the stacked offense that they have that can just put up 3-4 goals in a match if needed.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they take the last AFCON as kind of like a lesson. They got completely outclassed in that round of 16 match against Tunisia. It's the same crop of players. Again, I'm just hoping that they've learned their lesson in that last AFCON. Again, it's just worrisome, though, because their midfield's thin, bro. It's mainly just 3 guys, Iwobi, Aribo, and Onyeka. And that's it, man. They have like a 4th midfielder, and that's it. So if they're not firing on all cylinders, there's like an entire line missing for Nigeria.
And there's better midfield units out there in Africa right now that I think are, when it comes to those elite teams, would just completely dominate Nigeria's midfield. That's tough to have, bro. That really is. Last team to cover here is Ivory Coast, the host of this tournament, with a midfield of Fofana, Kessie, Ibrahim Sangare, Sebastian Haller, Nicolas Pepe up top. This Ivory Coast team is really interesting because we've seen in the past that AFCON hosts tend to do really well, bro. Like Cameroon, for example, who went on a deep run all the way to, I believe, the semifinals last time around due to them hosting the tournament and just having a great team unity. I'm very curious to see if this Ivory Coast team can do a very similar thing. The talent is there. The arsenal is there for them to work with and go on a deep run. I'm questionable. I'm questionable if they'll actually live up to that expectation or if they'll end up disappointing in this tournament.
I have the exact same curiosity for this team. What's really interesting, though, is the Ivory Coast have not been relevant since 2015. That's when they last won the tournament. Yeah. And before that was the years of the legend Didier Drogba. And I remember growing up as a kid, Ivory Coast was synonymous with Africa.
Yeah.
They were one and the same. And after 2015, no World Cups and pretty disappointing AFCON performances. But as you just said, the magic that was there for Cameroon when they hosted 2 years ago, I am hoping and honestly believing that it's going to be the same thing here for the Ivory Coast. But not only that, this is the perfect opportunity for this crop of players to get out of this weird transitionary phase that they've been in for the last 9 years. This is their chance to propel themselves past this kind of like little dark era and have a really good AFCON and qualify for the 2026 World Cup. As you already said, the list of players they have are very, very good. And then you add in veteran players like Max Gradel up top, Serge Aurier at the back. There's a good amount of experience in this team mixed in with a lot of energetic forces up front. The Ivory Coast will get out of this group, and I do believe they can actually make a deep run here. I'm thinking semifinals.
Yeah, I hope Ivory boast instead of Ivory Coast through this tournament, bro. That's my ultimate expectation. So then let's finalize this group. Who do you have first, second, third, and fourth? Does Nigeria finish on top of Equatorial Guinea? Do they win the group? Does Ivory Coast win the group? How would you rank these 4 teams?
I'm going to go Ivory Coast top, Nigeria second, Equatorial Guinea 3, but they're going to be a strong 3.
They'll get through.
I think so.
I hope.
I hope so, but I think so. And Guinea-Bissau at the bottom. One last thing about Guinea-Bissau. I do remember 2 years ago, they had one player just really pop off. Mama Balde. I believe he plays in France. Got the call up once again, so I'll just be excited to see him play. Other than that, they're a pretty defensive team.
Exactly the same way that I rate this group so far, so I agree with you completely. Let's look at Group B. Group B has Egypt, Cape Verde, Ghana, and Mozambique. Why don't we start with Mozambique here, who's ranked 111th in FIFA's rankings. Yeah. They've never made it past the group stages in the Afcon tournament. This is their first time here since 2010. And don't they have an Atleti player?
Reinildo Manava, something like that. Reinildo is what he's just normally called. But yeah, they do.
Interesting. I thought that was interesting, but fourth place for me.
Just a quick thing on Mozambique. I saw them play against Algeria. I think it was in October, maybe November in one of the qualifiers. They lost 2-0. It was just poor game management, but the first half that they played was nearly perfect. They had a lot of invention, some really neat ideas going forward. They just lacked the ability to finish, which I do think is going to happen here in this group. I just think Cape Verde is worse than them. That's it. Cape Verde have some really, really good players, but I think a lot of their players, Gary Rodriguez, Ryan Mendes, Kuka, for example, are a little old. They're all past 30 years old. They're the reason why Cape Verde have been relevant for the last 10 years and why they've been competitive. But I think Mozambique's just on a little bit of a rise here. And what's really interesting about this team is they have like 10 or 11 players that play in the local Mozambican league. The rest are European talent. So you get this really cool fusion of just pure African football mixed in with, like French football or just mid-tier European football. And I think what Mozambique have going on right now is it's nothing exceptional. I don't even want to get there, but it is a bit of a rise when you compare what Mozambique have done in the past. As you just said, they have not been to a tournament since 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's true.
I think they're going to just do a little bit of a surprise. Not a big one.
Fair play. I'm going to stick to fourth, but hey, I completely hear out your argument here. And third place, personally, I'm actually going to go Ghana, bro. For me, I'm going on a surprise third place appearance here. But look, I'm not going to be shocked if they manage to get second place in this group.
I'm banking on the Ghanaian performance that was frantic, chaotic, and progressive at the World Cup. Was it good performances? No. But if Iñaki Williams didn't have that fateful slip behind the goalkeeper, Ghana would have actually gotten through the group stage.
That was crazy.
And trust me, it was pure chaos for Ghana at the World Cup. But in those really good offensive moments, they were able to break down their opponents. And they were in a feisty group with Portugal and South Korea. So I'm hoping that Ghana that can lock in offensively and play against, the best in Europe and in Asia arrives here in the Ivory Coast. That's what I'm banking on. And for that reason, I have them getting out of this group. To add to the names that you listed, I'm going to go to the back line here. I think Jiku and Salisu are very, very good defenders. Again, if all of these players lock in, I think Ghana will get out of here. And actually, little surprise here, I have them finishing on top.
Wow. Okay. Fair play. Then you got them finishing over Egypt. Let's go into Egypt then. Being led by Mohamed Salah. They had an incredible 2021 Afcon, going all the way to the final and losing against Senegal. They haven't won the Afcon since 2010, so it's been a while now, but they're always formidable, always able to form such good and solid teams. And I guess my question to you is, do you see this Egyptian team being better or worse on the same level as the one that appeared here last time around?
I think I see them as the exact same, which is why I don't see them having a phenomenal tournament, because if you remember 2 years ago, every single knockout stage result was either won in extra time or in penalties. Every single one. Now, that does show you a really good thing about Egypt. They're incredibly stout, so formidable at the back. They do not give up and they do not let in goals. I think they're going to be the exact same here. Hegazi, Abdelmonem, and then in between the goal, El Shenawi, one of the best defenders and goalkeeper combination in Africa. I don't want to downplay that. But offensively, they've proven they just really don't have it. There's a huge reliance on Mohamed Salah, and I think that reliance remains the same. When you look at the players that have been called up to play alongside him, it's the same guys, What is it? Koka, Karaba, there's another striker, Marmouche, I believe his name. But you don't even have that wild card. El Shahat didn't get called up. That was a little surprising for me. The midfield's incredibly formidable. Once again, I don't want to downplay that. Egypt will definitely get out of this group as one of the better teams in Africa. I just think that their lack in offense is going to... I think it's going to show a little bit more in this tournament specifically.
That'd be interesting, man. I wonder how they're going to approach it. I actually really like the foundation they work off of. It's a very good foundation to always be close and tight in these matches. Yeah. And so I'm going to predict I have them finishing in first, but you're going to go with second here with Ghana on top.
Yes, sir.
Thoughts on Cape Verde?
I just think the team's a little old. Now, there are, young players that have found their ways in the starting lineup. Kenny Rocha, for example. But I just think their best players just a little old. Now, that's a good thing. That means they're experienced, and it's why they've gotten here. I just think Cape Verde don't have anything new to bring to the table. I think they're pretty easy to read, pretty predictable when they approach the game. So that's why I have them finishing in fourth. But again, I won't be surprised if they finish in third. But personally, I don't have them finishing higher than third.
Fair again. Yeah. I think when it comes to the Afcon, man, it's one of the most unpredictable tournaments of the region. And I got to have one kind of outlandish prediction, and that one is Cape Verde getting second over this disappointing Ghana team to me personally, and Mozambique in last.
No, dude, that's what's could happen. That's what's crazy about Afcon is that there's going to be one team in the top six that just botches their group stage, bro. And so it might be Ghana.
And if one that's one of the worst ones, probably making a pretty deep run. It's how it usually goes around here. But for you, it's Ghana, Egypt, Mozambique, Cape Verde. Mm-hmm. Okay. Group C has Senegal, Cameroon, Guinea, and Gambia. Who do you have in last place here?
I have Gambia finishing in last. But I don't want to downplay Gambia because they actually had a great debut 2 years ago in the Afcon. Completely surprised me. I remember two players really stood out. Musa Barrow and this other player named Jallo. Very offensive. And that's what I really liked about Gambia is that they played with zero fear. I just think the top teams in this group are just insanely good. Yeah. That's the problem. I think Gambia will have another good showing. They're just in a tough group.
Yeah, I think, Gambia had an insane 2021 Afcon reaching the quarterfinals. Yeah. I'm just going to go off the idea that I think they peaked then. I think that's their peak, and maybe they're on a slight downturn. I don't seem to be able to pull off the same results, so I have them in fourth for this group. To follow them up in third place, this one gets interesting because there's some nominees you could have, but ultimately I'm going to go with Guinea. I'm going to go with Guinea getting third place here. They have the Bundesliga joint top scorer and Girassi, man, which is just a crazy unit to have in your arsenal, man.
Crazy.
17 goals in the Bundesliga, having a wondrous season. And then probably the craziest stat about this team or craziest thing to look at, Naby Keita's actually fit, bro.
Yeah.
He's actually fit.
He's here.
And so he's actually going to be able to participate in this tournament.
And alongside Keita, you have 20-year-old Leipzig player Eli Shmoriba, and then also Amadou Diawara, who's very experienced in Europe. So I think Guinea have a solid foundation in the midfield, paired with a star in Girassi that you just named up top. But there's also a star that they recently just got in the back line, Mukhtar Diakabi, who plays for Valencia. And he's had an incredible season this year, breakout in my opinion for him personally. So I actually have Guinea getting a second place finish because of that. They've always had solid teams, never enough to do anything exceptional. But I think the inclusion of Diakabi and now Girassi, two studs in the front and back, is gonna get Guinea through this time in a second place position.
Look, man, I will not argue against that because when you talk about Guinea making second place, we're gonna have to pick between Senegal and Cameroon to get third, and I think there's a strong third place contender here in Cameroon.
Yeah.
Because Cameroon last went on a crazy deep run in the Afcon when they hosted it in 2021. They got names like Zambo Anguissa, Onana at this tournament. But overall, man, I've always just felt that this has been a little bit of an unconvincing team.
Yeah.
They're led by a questionable coach in Rigobert Song, and they won't have Mbeumo at this tournament. They won't have Choupo-Moting at this tournament. And I think the players that they do have, like Abu Bakar and Toko Ekambi, are just a little bit past it now.
Yeah.
A little bit past it. And I think it's fair to say that semifinal appearance last time was probably the highest achievement that this core players will reach. And so I don't have them going on a deep run in this tournament, but I do personally have them in second place, but totally open to the idea of them getting third because I just do think they're on a downturn overall.
That's exactly why I have them in third. I think Guinea's just on a slight rise, and Cameroon, as you just said, while they may be very experienced, those experienced players are past it, in my opinion. They're still going to be very good. And honestly, they might be one of the better third place, or I could see them finishing in second.
Yeah.
I could see them finishing in second because Guinea don't have that experience. But Cameroon, as you actually just said, I think actually are starting their transitionary period because when you look at the midfield players and defensive players that they called up, there's a lot of players that have very minimal caps. In the backline, the only two experienced players are Jean Castelletto and Nuhu Tolo. And then in the midfield, it's literally just Andre Frank Zambo Anguissa and then just a bunch of new guys. So this is definitely an experimental team for Cameroon when you compare them to the last 3 years. And I think it's going to hurt their chances here to have a successful tournament.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they evolve for the next 4 years. And lastly, Senegal, topping the group in my opinion here.
Yeah.
The defending champions are back. I think it's fair to say that they are getting just a little bit older as a unit, as a group. So to me, this is almost like a one last dance type of approach to the tournament with Aliou Cisse retaining that coaching position. You still have Kalidou Koulibaly, you have Sadio Mane once again. And I actually do think that's where one of the most interesting things about Senegal to watch at this tournament will be at is their offense, because you now have the inclusion of Nicolas Jackson coming into this team, trying to help out Sadio Mane, who has been aging and whose level has dropped overall, playing now in the Saudi League for Al Nassr. So I'm interested to see personally how Nicolas Jackson approaches this team and his role overall, because he's been a little shaky for Chelsea, but maybe at the international level he can step it up. And overall, I do see Senegal having enough experience and enough quality across this entire team to be able to secure first place in this group.
Yeah, man. I mean, Edouard Mendy, Sabali, Ismail Jacobs, Idrissa Gana Gueye, alongside Sadio Mane. You still have Ismail Assar, Iliman Ndiaye. These are the same guys that have been playing with each other since Aliou Cisse came into the head coach position for Senegal. And when you look at Senegal's recent track record, they've only improved. In 2017, they had a quarterfinal appearance. Before that, I think they had just a group stage exit. In 2019, they actually went to the final, lost to Algeria, and then finally, in 2021, they won it. So it's been improvement every single Afcon for Aliou Cisse. And you could argue that over the last, let's say, eight years or 2 cycles of World Cup, Senegal have been the most consistent African team. And you could argue and you would win the argument. I think it's very defined that Senegal are the most consistent team. Maybe not the best or peak-wise, but they've been the most consistent team in Africa. And I don't think they're going to lose that consistency just yet. I agree. This team definitely is aging, but I think this is their last hurrah. This is going to be their last go. Dance. And I think with the type of experience and talent that they have, they even go to the semis and low-key make a third back-to-back-to-back final.
No, they're contender.
They're
contender.
Title contenders.
So to round out this group, I have Senegal first, Cameroon second, Guinea third, Gambia fourth. For you, you have Guinea and Cameroon flipped.
That's it.
Perfect. Group D has Algeria, Burkina Faso, Mauritania, and Angola. Your thoughts on Algeria?
Yeah, they just have disappointed me since they won it in 2019. I remember watching the 2019 Afcon because it made me so hyped for the potential that Algeria could have reached. Because the trajectory that they were on when they won it in 2019, I was thinking, okay, this team can make it to the quarterfinals of the World Cup. They were playing that type of silky football. They were unstoppable offensively. And I thought they actually had reached better heights offensively than the reigning champions in Senegal. And in my opinion, I thought they were just as good defensively. But since that win in 2019, man, Algeria haven't done anything, bro. And if you remember, 2 years ago, had one of the most embarrassing title defenses probably in Afcon history, man.
Bro.
Well, they got 1 point.
Yeah,
I think that's fourth place, bottom of the group, did not show up whatsoever. Didn't even qualify for 2022, even though they still had a pretty decent chance.
Cameroon got in over them.
Crazy game. Controversial fashion, but still, they couldn't pull it off. So now they're here with pretty much the same team, I'd say. Everyone's a little bit older. The talent, I think, is very high. One of the better squads here in Africa still. And my only question for them is, are they going to show up? And I'm hoping that lesson that they learned 2 years ago is going to make them really show up this year, bro. Because I can't have Algeria just botch another group stage. Not when they have the talent that they have at their disposal. They have to have... They have to get through this group stage. There's no excuse when you have the type of talent that they have.
Yeah, I think that's where my take stands too. I think unless you're Germany in World Cups, it's very hard to disappoint back-to-back tournaments this big when you're a nation of this quality. Only Germany has done it, bro. It's very hard to disappoint that badly the way they did. I just see them having too much talent to to actually do that once again, because if they do, then Algeria will not get the respect of the Give and Go for a good 5 years, bro.
Oh yeah, I won't watch a single Algerian game.
It's gonna hurt.
4 years.
It's gonna hurt, but I can't support a team that plays that low despite having quality so high. Ranked 30th in FIFA's rankings, they have to top this group, or they at the very least have to get second place, bro. That's my expectation for Algeria. So the pressure is on, bro. The pressure is on, and it might be their last chance at something notable because Mahrez is getting older, and he's the star of this team. So hopefully, bro, I really do hope, for the sake of Algerians and the Give and Go, that they show up.
It is crazy, though, because, I mean, so are their starting strikers. Baghdad Bouneja, Islam Slimani, who...
Slimani,
you see he plays in Brazil now?
Yeah,
by the way. Like,
I saw
holy
that.
shit.
Yeah.
But they're all, like, old now. Left winger, Belaili, also, 29, maybe 30, 31, actually. So their front line not looking youthful at all. Midfield and defensive line, I think, is just at a good age, but it's the front line that gets you the goals. So it's really going to be interesting to see Algeria after this specific cycle. So if they really want to maximize their chances of having a good 2026, they have to go off here, make sure that everyone still has that chemistry, is still flowing with one another, and they cannot repeat what they did 2 years ago.
Yeah, the team I'm most excited for them to face off against in the group stage is Burkina Faso, because this Burkina Faso team, man, they love Afcon. They really do, and they were so fun to watch last time around. A really solid side, an underrated team in my opinion, with guys like Tapsoba, who plays at Bayer Leverkusen. And what's so fun about them is that they're great in transition, man. They're great in that counter-attacking type of style, or just pushing the ball forward. They're fast-paced, energetic guys that I love to watch play. That's a feisty team to have as the second best team in your group. So I think they'll be vying and eyeing that first place position in hopes of trumping Algeria. I think that match will be very fun to watch. But for me, it is certain that Burkina Faso will get, at the very least, second place in this group.
Yeah, I have them finishing second, right underneath Algeria. But yeah, 2 years ago, dude, Burkina Faso went off, bro. I remember they had this stud in the midfield who fortunately did get called up again, Blati Toure. If you see Burkina Faso game, just watch that specific player in the midfield, because you're going to see excellent off the first touch, tricky off the ball as well, and he's just really good at distributing the ball too. So you have a stud in the midfield, players who are willing to run, willing to make that transition game effective. Burkina Faso is a really fun team, and especially in Afcons. My only question for them is, I mean, can they repeat it? I just think it's going to be really, really tough. A semifinal run with semifinal run 2 years ago was phenomenal for a country like Burkina Faso. It's basically the same team that has got called up 2 years later, but to repeat that, I think is going to be a little tough. Even though Algeria bossed their chances 2 years ago, I still have them finishing top of this group.
Yep, I agree. I have Algeria first, Burkina Faso second. Here's where it gets fun, because I was catching up on a lot of Afcon prediction videos, and I've seen a lot of people really push for the idea that Angola will get third and Mauritania will get fourth. Do you agree with that take?
I do agree with that, but in my opinion, I see both teams as some of the worst teams here at Afcon. Mauritania have done well to qualify for the last couple of Afcons, so congratulations to them to maintaining that consistency to qualify. Abubakar Kamara, definitely one of their better players up top. I remember him having a decent tournament 2 years ago. Plays in UAE, I believe. But other than him, man, I mean, that's kind of it. This team, Mauritania, does not score goals. They just don't. They don't have an offense. So for them, I see them actually finishing bottom because of that. But the thing is, Angola, they don't have an offense either, bro. They really don't. Only reason I have Angola finishing above them is simply because they maybe have a better midfield, but it's a maybe. This could be a flip-flop. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, I personally have Angola third and Mauritania fourth. The Angola player, I do want to highlight Do Carneiro. He plays for Petro de Luanda. He's like your African Marcelo, essentially. He's got that fro. Fun. Really fun going forward. Yeah. A little sloppy, but a really fun player going forward.
That's fun. I'm going to go flipped here. I'll go Mauritania gets third. Angola gets fourth. Angola here for the first time since 2015. Mm-hmm. But from when I've read it on their team specifically, I hear that they have a lot of injured players. So I wonder if we'll see the maxed potential of Angola in this tournament. So I have them getting fourth, Mauritania getting third. Group E has Tunisia, Mali, South Africa, and Namibia. Why don't we start off with Namibia? Here for a good time?
Here for a good time. Also here to finish last place of the group, unfortunately. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I figured.
yeah. Personally, I actually don't know a single player on this team.
Yeah.
Not a single one.
Okay.
But I know they made a couple of AFCONs maybe in the last 10 years, and a couple. But I don't think they've ever gone on the group stage, so I expect the same thing here.
Who do you have finishing third in this group?
Third's definitely going to be South Africa here. I'm interested to see what they do, though. I actually am. Most of the players play in the South African League, which kind of parallels Egypt. A lot of Egypt's national team play in the Egyptian League, and the fact that they can even make semifinals and finals appearance is huge credit to that league itself. But for South Africa, man, they haven't really had any success in the last 5-6 AFCONs. So for South Africa, I'm just interested to see, is there a new crop of players that is coming through the South African League to at least give some sort of hope to the nation? I mean, other than Percy Tau, I don't really know anybody else here. And I'm just curious, are they good, or is this just, another average team?
Yeah, I find them really interesting, man. Obviously hosted the 2010 World Cup, and I always kept an eye on them since, but they just haven't been able to improve upon their performance at the World Cup.
Yeah.
And they're interesting, bro. I looked at their record. Only one loss in the last 14 games for them, which on paper sounds amazing. Obviously, the teams are, very low-level teams, but the one team they just lost to was Rwanda in preparation for this tournament. So I think maybe just the consistency of getting good results, even though it's against low-level teams, is a good thing overall. I see something of positivity here for the South African team that I think will end up benefiting and what will be a third-place appearance. But going anywhere beyond that, I don't think it's this year for them.
Yeah, and when you look at the two teams that will be above them, Tunisia and Mali, I think there's a huge class difference. And Tunisia and Mali is actually a repeat of 2 years ago. They were in the same group, Mali getting the best of Tunisia in that moment. And actually have the same thing happening once again in this group. Mali's going to be my number one. And when you look at some of the players that this Malian team has, man, do they have a stacked midfield. Haidara, Samaseku, Yves Bissouma, just to name a few of the players. And what a balanced midfield Mali has, and they couple it with just electric pace up front. We saw it 2 years ago. We've seen it at the U17 World Cup. Mali's been really kind of advocating this really quick, really aggressive offensive style of football. And I think the only thing that they're missing is the ability to finish consistently. They figure that out, bro. Mali's going to be like a top 3, top 4 side in Africa. And I'm hoping that we see the same Mali side that we saw 2 years ago, but with that added ability to finish. They figure that out, man. Mali's going to be very scary to play against.
Yeah, no, I have Mali as an official dark horse for this tournament. Dark horse, because I do see them as having the potential to go off and win the tournament if they find that momentum. The only reason I have them in second is because I owe the Tunisians a lot. In 2021, completely underrated them. They went on a really fantastic run, knocking out the title favorites at the time, Nigeria, in the round of 16, I believe. And then doing the same thing at the World Cup, bro. I underrated them in their performance in that group. Yeah. They beat France somehow, and then they drew against Denmark at this tournament. 2 really impressive results. Also playing Australia really closely as well. I'm not going to underrate them this tournament. I owe the Tunisians. I'm going to give them first place in this group, and I actually hope that they are able to go on a deep run because the elements are there to do something impressive. The approach, it's very oriented towards playing a very tight game. A bunch of 1-0 results here, and specifically maybe they even go into extra time in these matches. But I got Tunisia doing something special at this tournament.
Yeah, Tunisia, what's weird, I'm actually with you in the sense that I have a soft spot for Tunisia. I just like watching them play, even though it's a very gritty type of style that they've always employed, at least over the last 15 years. But, they just have some fun players. I remember having Youssef Msakni, the captain. He's still getting called up here. They have really good midfield in Ben Romdan. And, there's Naim Sliti still getting the call up as well. So it's a lot of familiar faces that were at the 2022 FIFA World Cup. And I'm with you. I see this team as having a very poised tournament. They're very composed in every single game that they play. I just think Mali's kind of their kryptonite That's why
Sure,
I have Mali
sure.
finishing above them. But you put Tunisia against anybody else in the round of 16, I think it's going to be a hell of a tight match. And I won't be surprised if Tunisia make another quarterfinal appearance here.
So to round out the group, I have Tunisia first, Mali second, South Africa third, Namibia fourth. You have Mali and Tunisia flipped.
That's it.
And finally, the last group is Group F, which has Morocco, DR Congo, Zambia, and Tanzania.
Give me Tanzania in fourth.
Yeah.
Give me that one.
Yeah, let's work with that then. I got Tanzania also in fourth, man, ranked 121 in FIFA's rankings. Never won a game at Afcon. That's their history. Never, bro.
Shit.
It's their third ever appearance. Happy for them to make an appearance here, show their faces once every blue moon, but I don't have them finding success once again because it would be historic if they were able to do that.
Yeah, I think they're in the 2019 version. I don't fully remember, but I do know that they were in one of the recent previous editions. And even though they didn't win a game, they played just all-out offense, and they were really fun to watch from that perspective. So much so that I actually remember watching them after that Afcon, whichever one it was, because I was like, this team has the ability to maybe get close to qualifying for a World Cup. Not actually qualifying for one, but getting close. But now they kind of teetered off after that, and that's where I see this Tanzanian team right now, just kind of subpar. Maybe they have one or two really good players, but as a collective, I just don't think they can cut it in this group.
Yeah, and so above them, I have Zambia getting third place here. The champions of 2012 Afcon, man.
Renard, baby.
Yes, sir. That's prestige right here. But I have them finishing in third because although they have a lot of firepower, we're talking about two teams that have that 10 times over in DR Congo and Morocco. It's a tough group to be in. Yeah. And I just don't see them having enough to compete with the levels of those two teams. But I do think they might be one of those teams that is able to qualify out of this group in a third place position. We'll have to wait and see. But I think they got a little something to them. I just don't think it's enough to finish in first or second.
I have the exact same take. They have some really exciting players going forward. Fashion Sakala Jr., who plays for Al Feiha in Saudi Arabia, and then Patson Daka, who plays for Leicester City, right, in the championship. There's quality up front. I'm just curious to see if the Zambian midfield can support that. If they can, honestly, they could give DR Congo a run for the money at the very least, and maybe qualify as one of the third place finishers. For sure, I have Zambia finishing in third place overall, though.
And last, we have Morocco and DR Congo competing for first place here. A matchup that we've seen before when we look at the Afcon, when we look at the African World Cup playoff system. It was these two teams who faced off. DR Congo had an opportunity to knock Morocco out before they went on their magical run at the 2022 World Cup, but they were unsuccessful, with Morocco winning, I believe, 5-2 in that matchup. Yeah. I have DR Congo finishing in second here.
Yeah, if there's a gap between DR Congo and Zambia, then I think it's a really big gap between Morocco and DR Congo. Yeah. And it's not even to discredit DR Congo, because when you look at their team, there's a lot of European talent, obviously. Some really good players that they definitely do have. Chancel Mbemba, Maswaku's decent as well. There's another forward that always gets called up that's escaping. His name is escaping me right now. But then outside of that, there's just a lot of players who ply their trade in Europe. I think the DR Congo are going to have a decent outing here, but kind of similar to that playoff against Morocco. They'll show up, but once they face a team that just outclasses them in quality, I just don't see DR Congo winning that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's why I ultimately do have them in second place here. But in first, we have what's being regarded as the best African team right now with Morocco, making the World Cup semifinal, becoming the first African team to go that deep in the World Cup, a historic team with some of the best chemistry we've seen at the international stage. Regragui is leading these guys once again, and they're in the middle of a golden generation here with guys like Hakimi, Mazraoui, Bono,
Naif Agard. In the midfield, you have Amala, Manchester United, Sofiane Amrabat,
yes.
Unaki, who plays with Marseille, and then up top, Hakim Ziyech, and then potentially Tusudali now, who was injured for the World Cup. That'll be really interesting to see. But in Nesiri, maybe you get Boufal as well.
Boufal is who I was trying to think about. Yes, bro. So the names are crazy.
Names are crazy, and it's all the same guys that did it literally a year ago.
Yeah, here's what I'm curious about when it comes to Morocco is this generation has to get some silverware, bro. And they have to for what they were able to achieve at the World Cup. They lost in the quarterfinals at the last Afcon to Egypt in extra time, I believe. And I want to see them actually live up to that standard that's being given to them now due to what they achieved just a year ago in Qatar, man. Like, if they want to be known as the best African team, and if they want to continue having that status, which has been given to them, then they have to win this tournament. They have to. The pressure is on for them. I do think they have enough and what it takes to be able to do it. The stage is set for Morocco to win the Afcon this year. And the biggest question is, will they be able to do it?
Yeah, they're like the Iran or South Korea of Africa. They have not won the continental title in a long time. It's been several decades. So I'm with you. Morocco, this generation specifically, have to prove to the world that they are worthy of silverware. They have to get it now, in my opinion, though, because everyone's in their prime. They're just coming off one of the most successful runs of a minnow team in comparison at a World Cup. So why not now? I really don't see why not now. For me, Morocco have to make the semifinals or it's an absolute failure. I'm putting that type of pressure on this team. So for me, Morocco semifinals are bust. And then I expect to see this Moroccan team at the final, nothing less.
Yeah, bro, the more we do this show, the more I realize you got to have an urgency when you're in the middle of like a golden generation, bro. Yeah. You got every chance you have to get some silverware. You have to take advantage because these things do not last, bro. They do not last. And I really do hope that Morocco realizes that and just balls out at this tournament, man, because they are the best African team.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's the thing is I'm putting that expectation on this Moroccan team, but I have them as the best team here.
Yeah.
I don't think another team rivals them pound for pound in every position. I think Morocco's always better when you compare them to any other African team. Now, obviously, there's going to be some really feisty teams. Ivory Coast maybe as host. Egypt with just their defense. Senegal is the reigning champs. Maybe Algeria shows up. Who knows? But I still have Morocco as the title favorites for this year's Afcon.
So to round out Group F, we agree. Morocco first, DR Congo second, Zambia third, Tanzania fourth. All right, and just to make it official, let's submit our predictions here and kind of establish who are the contenders for this tournament. Because actually, I'm wondering here, I have 7 teams listed as contenders.
Yeah.
And I'm going to name them, but I want to know if we can shave them off or if we should, continue thinking that maybe they have a shot at this tournament.
Okay.
So the way I have them ranked, number 7, I have Algeria. 6, Nigeria. 5th, Tunisia. 4th, Egypt. 3rd, Ivory Coast. 2nd, Senegal. Morocco first. Is that the right contenders list, or should it just be Morocco and Senegal, bro?
All I have as genuine, true lifting the trophy at the end of the tournament is Morocco and Senegal.
All right.
We
can trim it. We can trim it. I'm down.
I have. But you're right. I mean, I think Nigeria, Ivory Coast will have something to say. Maybe Egypt, maybe Tunisia and Algeria. But realistically, if I had to trim it down to just who's going to be in the final, I'm going Morocco against Senegal.
Now, the question here is, which one are you picking, bro? Because I think there's a very valid argument for either side. And the Afcon, as we know it, is unpredictable, bro. And it's not just about who's the best on paper. It's just about who wants it more sometimes. Yeah. And I could see Senegal having a say here when it comes to Morocco pursuing this trophy.
Dude, 100%. Like, when we did the Asian Cup prediction, I have Japan winning it no matter what, essentially. But here, even though I have Morocco as my title favorites, if they play a team like Senegal or Senegal themselves, it's gonna be a toss-up. It's going to be a hell of a final. Once we get to that quarterfinal, semifinal stage, it's going to be nothing but pure, beautiful, contested football. Morocco, Senegal is going to be a crazy final if it does happen, but I'm still going to go Morocco just because of what they just pulled off a year ago. But look, man, Senegal have proven that they do not go down without a fight in Afcon specifically over the last couple of editions. I will not be surprised if Senegal get a back-to-back title, and which would be insane, by the way. And if you think about it, since Afcon's so volatile, back-to-back, just within 2 years, I'm considering that a dynasty if that does happen.
Oh, okay. Yeah. This is one of the scariest predictions to make, man. Africa region scares me, bro.
Dude, Morocco might lose in the round of 16.
I know, bro. I get so scared. And I'm just going to mention them because I actually see something magical happening for them. I have them going very deep in this tournament, maybe even making the final. Ivory Coast.
Yeah.
I have something, I don't know what it is about this Ivory Coast thing that gets me so excited. I just think the host factor, the plethora of talent, the fact that it's been so long since they found success, I think something has to give eventually. And I could actually see a really fun Ivory Coast team forming here at this tournament and going in deep. So I want to make sure I submit that into the prediction bowl here.
And can I just say, dude, I'm so excited to see the crowds that show up for those Ivory Coast games.
Oh, yeah, bro.
Oh, my God, dude. I literally, I'm just going to show up for those Ivory Coast games because those stadiums are going to be packed to the brim, bro. And I hope that magic, that energy, that passion just kind of vibes through everybody, the players included. So, yeah, I think Ivory Coast can make a deep, deep run here. It'd be beautiful to see.
Lastly, the other team I feel the need to mention is Egypt, is the Mohamed Salah factor. It can happen. It can exist. They built a solid foundation for him to just go off of and to just get victories time and time again. I'm not going to rule out this Egyptian team. I'm personally not. But when it comes to selecting the winner, fuck, dude. When it comes to selecting the winner, I think I do owe it to Morocco.
Yeah.
I think I owe it to Morocco. With what they did in 2022, the way that we did underestimate them going into that tournament, I got Morocco lifting the trophy here, bro. I got Morocco lifting the trophy and becoming 2023 Afcon champions. I also really do want to see it. I want to see them be able to have some silverware to represent this golden era, golden generation that they have formed. The country deserves it. The style of play, the way that these players are playing on the individual level at club too, they all deserve this trophy. In Senegal, they had their moment. Thank you for your time, but it's Morocco's time now. And I want to see it happen at this tournament.